City Commission election, sponsored by the Governmental Affairs Committee of the Huron Chamber and Visitors Bureau. First off, I would remind you to please check your cell phones and put them on silent or vibrate so that we don't interfere with our meeting. Want to recognize the candidates this morning. We have on my left candidate Rhonda Clute, and on my right incumbent Drew Einreich. I want to thank the media, the Huron Plainsman, Huron Radio. Remind you that this can be viewed by you or by others you talk to on the Huron South Dakota YouTube channel. And our refreshments this morning are provided by the South Dakota Farmers Union, AARP, and the Huron Chamber and Visitors Bureau. We will take 3 minutes for opening comments from the candidates. Then we will get to your questions and have the candidates respond. You can ask a question of a specific candidate or ask a question in general. If you ask a general question, we will let them respond as they choose a position there, and then we'll have 2 minutes for closing. I would remind you, we are here to listen to the candidates, so I will not allow speeches from the podium. But if you do want to ask a question, come forward to the podium and state your name and where you live. With that, we drew for order and opening statements, and we are going to begin with a 3-minute opener from Rhonda Clute. Rhonda?
Thank you. Can you hear me? I'm not familiar with this. Is it okay? All right. Thanks, Mike. And thanks to the Governmental Affairs Committee, Lori, the providers of the refreshments, Farmers Union, and AARP. Okay. I'm so glad you're all here today, and thank you for coming, taking time out of your morning to be here to listen to what we have to say. A little bit about me. I moved to Huron with my husband 40 years ago. However, my husband was born and raised in Huron, as were his parents, his grandparents, his great-grandparents, and now our daughter and her husband live in Huron, and they are raising our 2 grandsons in Huron. So I come from a family 6 generations strong of living in Huron and calling it home. And it has been a privilege, and it has been the most wonderful experience of our life to live in Huron, to raise our 2 children here, and to have our grandsons be raised in this community. My passion has always been about this community. I have worked hard my entire life to connect community resources to community needs. Huron has an incredible reputation of our people coming together to meet the most pressing needs in our community. That was evident with Splash Central. It was probably evident long before I came here with the building of the Huron Arena, which was built in 1950. The Nordby Center, the expansion of our middle schools, high schools, the elementary schools, everyone comes together to make our community stronger. So that is why I want to continue to work hard for you and for our community to make it an even better place for all of us. I have long contemplated being a city commissioner, and I now have the time and the energy to devote to that. I started my career in Huron as a kindergarten teacher, and from that I went on to be the executive director of the United Way. My role with the United Way taught me so much about Huron. I became very familiar with every single nonprofit in this community. For 20 years, we worked hand in hand to make sure that the needs of our citizens were being met. Boy, that time goes fast. The role of city government is to provide essential services for our citizens. That constitutes public safety, emergency services, and programs that really enhance the quality of life for all of our citizens. And one of the things I'm most passionate about working on are the 7 key issues that came out of Huron Rising 2.0. And those 7 issues, I believe, will be the blueprint and the catalyst for what I plan to do as your city commissioner. Ooh, boy, I have a lot more to say, but there's more time. Thank you.
Thank you, and now we'll hear from Drew Weinweiss. Drew?
Thank you. So good morning. Thank you everybody for being here today. I would also like to thank the Chamber and the Governmental Affairs Committee for hosting the forum. I'm Drew Weinreis. I'm your City Commissioner, and I'm running for a 2nd term on the City Commission. I'm a lifelong resident of Huron, and I work at Dakota Land Federal Credit Union as the Vice President of Member Services. I have the privilege to also serve as the President of the Board of Directors for the Center for Independence and also a Chamber Ambassador. Over the past 4 years, it has been challenging at times, but a rewarding journey. Our community faced 2 major storms shortly after taking office that tested our resilience. But with your support and patience, we were able to clean up efforts effectively, ensuring Huron returned to a normal as fast as possible. Infrastructure improvements have also been a priority. I'm excited about the Dakota Avenue Streetscape project that we've been working on the last 4 years, alongside the Department of Transportation as they redo our highway. The project not only enhances our infrastructure, but it also takes the opportunity to revitalize our downtown. By adding new benches, trees, and lighting, these improvements will create a more inviting atmosphere, encouraging more people to visit our local businesses. We also just completed a new solid waste transfer facility, which will improve our waste management for the years to come. Additionally, we've made progress on the residential development, securing over 100 acres of new land for future development. And then including that is new lots that will be going up by the golf course, which will enhance our community's appeal. Through the Huron Rehab Program, we are addressing the challenges of aging housing, ensuring that everyone in Huron has a safe and comfortable place to call home. Lastly, I'd like to highlight my commitment to our community beautification. I've helped organize and participated in citywide cleanup efforts this last spring and summer that have brought residents and staff together to take pride in our neighborhoods and our community. I always believe that there is room for improvement, and we need everyone's help in doing so. As I seek re-election to the City Commission for a 2nd term, I'm excited about the opportunities to continue this progress. Together, we can build on these accomplishments and enhance Huron's quality of life. So I'd appreciate your support and your vote on April 8th. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're ready for your questions. If you have a question, yes, sir. Please come to the podium, state your name and where you live, and then ask your question.
Good morning, Kevin Van Duken, I live in Huron. Question I have is with the sale, or the property tax reduction bill that came through the legislature this year, and a future push to reduce property taxes even more, how would you prioritize the funding when you're doing a city budget?
Okay, who would like to start?
I'll go ahead and start.
Go ahead.
And so that's a great question. And so, we have certain parameters and certain ways that the city can receive funding to, for our budget, and property tax is one of those. And so if there is a cap on property tax, that would have a hindrance on our city budget. And so we would have to take priorities on what is most important. And obviously my top priority in Huron is public safety. And I believe that we cannot reduce anything in our city for the safety, which is our first responders and our law enforcement. I believe that is one thing that we could not jeopardize any cuts to anything like that. So I would make sure that is a top priority, would be our public safety and first responders.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. That is a great question, and property taxes impact everyone. And I know there is a lot going on in Pierre and across the state with everyone's concern. And whether it's our city sales tax or state sales tax, whatever. But that revenue does impact our community greatly. And one thing that I think we need to be aware of when working with city budgets or any budget, our personal budgets, whatever, is to look at the resources we have. Although we may get a lot of great ideas of things that we can implement and we should implement, oh, let's, build a new park or build a new building or purchase a building, we have to take care of what we already have. And if we're going to be looking at budget cuts and things that are going to come down the pike, we have to be prepared for that. We can't be out spending money and not be responsible to the citizens. And I think public safety, I agree, Drew, that is important. So is our water supply, so is our sanitation system. All of the things that fall under infrastructure are very important to our everyday needs. We want to know that we can turn the faucet on and get water. We want to know that our streets are safe. We want to know that if we have a fire, we can call the fire department. And with that same thought, we have the other areas of our community, like our parks, that we want to maintain and keep those clean and safe and pristine, along with the beautification. So I think the most important thing that we do is we work with what we have. If we have a budget that's being cut because of the property taxes, we're going to have to work hard and figure out what we can do to make sure that we are spending your money wisely. And we had to do that when I was with the United Way. We had a goal, we worked hard to reach that goal, and then we had to work within that budget. And I think every single one of us does that in our home life, and our government has a responsibility to stay within that budget too, whatever it may be. If those cuts come down the pike, we better be ready to face those. Thanks.
Thank you. Who would like to ask the next question? Don't be shy. Come on, Ben. Reliable Ben, he always has a good question or two for these forums. Thank you.
Ben Chase from Huron, from the paper, and if you read today's paper yet, which I understand it's early, you might not have had a chance, there is an excellent editorial in from a Huron High School graduate who's now got a role with, he's part of the Aberdeen Development Corporation for quite a few years. Also happens to be my cousin, so I read it with interest. Might have had a little influence on how it got in the paper. He wrote a very good editorial about the state's role in the child care crisis. And his point being, if child care is not handled, business growth cannot happen. Child care is vital for the growth of business. What is the role of the city, do you believe, in our child care needs right now, which are pretty intense in this city, in order to help potentially grow our future business?
Thank you.
I would love to go first on that one, if I may. As the chair of the Child Care Committee with Huron Rising 2.0, and as a lifelong educator with a degree in early childhood development and elementary education, and I read Mike Bockerny's article, and I did not know you were related. Everyone's related, right? That is so crucial to the workforce in our community, in our state, and in this country. It is a crisis. Through our Child Care Committee, and we have 10 people on our Child Care Committee that have been working so hard since Huron Rising started a year ago, and we've made some progress. However, for every step we take forward, we're going back. 6 child care centers closed in Huron last year. Let's just say each of those providers had 10 children under their care. That's 60 children left without child care. We had a new child care center open, and it's not an easy task to be a child care provider. They are working from 7 a.m. till whenever parents can get off work and come pick up their children. They take care of sick children. Most of them have absolutely no benefits. They do not have health care. They don't get vacation days. For a lot of our providers, if they aren't working, they aren't getting paid. Sorry, how much time do I have?
You have 45 seconds.
Okay. It is a crisis, and we have been pounding that drum. I've been in Pierre for years testifying on the importance of childcare. It has been overlooked until COVID came, and so many of our families could not go to work. They could not be, if there were essential workers, they could not go to work because childcare could not be opened. It was at that point that our country started realizing how important childcare is. And my 10-member Child Care Committee is committed to doing what we can. Right now, we are working on 2 grants to help every child care provider in this community access salary for their people, so they can hire more staff and pay them what they deserve to be paid. They're taking care of our most valuable resource. Okay, sorry, I went a little bit over.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So yes, it is an issue. and it is an issue not only in this community, but like Rhonda said, it is nationwide. And yes, there needs to be adequate childcare facilities, but how does the city play a role in that? How does the city decide which one gets funding and which one doesn't? So I don't know exactly if it is, coming out of the city's budget. Like Rhonda said, and maybe it's best where it's kind of at now is it's a group together where they're working together to help all daycare facilities, and maybe that's finding grants and other means and working with Greater Huron Development. But I don't know if we should be funding daycare centers out of the city's budget. There might be an opportunity that I might not be aware of, and that I might change my view on that, but I think, it should be in the nonprofit sector or through grants or other type of funding, but not necessarily directly through the city's budget.
Thank you. Who would like to ask the next question? Then I'm gonna ask it. We talked about, a little bit about the income for the city budget. Let's talk about the fact that the city budget obviously has some constraints. How would you prioritize spending? What measures will you use to ensure fiscal responsibility while meeting the needs of our community?
I'll start on this one. So thank you. So our budget, last year was $54 million. A significant increase from the previous year, 14%, and that was due to the solid waste facility transfer station that we had completed. And so yes, we have certain dollar amounts, and we have to be good stewards for our community and our taxpayers. And my priorities on that is, public safety is our number one, but we have to make sure we're funding all of our essential services, water, our solid waste facility, and so I want to make sure that my top priorities would obviously be public safety, but I believe that we need to make sure we're good stewards for our checkbook, and that we're not funding things that are not necessary for our city. So that would be my top priority.
Go ahead.
Well, I couldn't agree more with everything that Commissioner Weinreich said, and prioritizing is the important thing, especially when you're faced with a certain budget. We all live within our means, and the city has to do the same thing. So if the budget is cut, it's nice to know that it was increased last year. That's exciting. But the first thing that I think we have to prioritize is what is essential to our community's well-being, and that would be the services that we rely on without giving a second thought to our water and our sanitation and our streets and the traffic lights operating properly. Then we can move on to other enhancements for the city. What can we do? What more can we do to enhance downtown? There's already a master plan in place. Great things are going to happen there, but there's always something more that we can do. But if the budget has refrains from us doing that, then we have to be aware of those services that are vital to the well-being of our citizens. And to me, that is essential services. And that's what we're responsible for. So that has to be the priority.
Thank you. Who would like to ask a question?
I'll get another one.
You're sure welcome for another turn, Kevin.
All right, with the Huron growth seeming to be at a standstill as far as businesses, how would you attract new businesses to our community? We have the new beef plant that's coming in, but Huron, compared to other communities in the state, does not seem to be moving forward as fast as other cities. Is there anything as a city we could do to entice more businesses to come to our city?
Thank you.
Okay, I'll go with that one. Years ago, there was a task force put in place by the mayor of our city, and it was the downtown recruitment. And I worked on that. I was asked to serve on that committee. What we found out was it's not as easy as it seems to go out and ask a business to open in our community. Businesses have a plan, especially the chain businesses, the large stores, have a plan in place. They look at the demographics, they look at our sales tax, they look at what's going on in our community, and from that, they determine if they are going to move into your community. Same with restaurants. You know, we had a beautiful restaurant with the ground round, and it didn't make it. That does not look well for another chain restaurant to come into our community. I have to turn to, and this is what I would do in situations where I am unsure. Our Greater Huron Development Corporation and our chamber work very hard to bring new businesses in and support the existing ones. And I think that's an important thing we have to remember too. We have a lot of good restaurants in our community, wonderful ethnic restaurants. You can't go anywhere and get more authentic ethnic food than we have right here in Huron. We have to continue to support those businesses, those retail businesses. You know, we've had some new businesses open up. Our downtown empty streets or empty storefronts are filling up, and people are putting retail into those businesses. We have a new boutique in town. I think it's important that we start by supporting them and then working with Greater Huron and the chamber and doing whatever we can as a city. It's called working together, collaboration. We have to do whatever we can. If they see a prospect and we as city government can do something to help with that, that's our responsibility to work together. And that's what Huron has always done. We work together to make things happen.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So great question. And so if we first have to have the housing need, we have to have the housing. So before we can attract additional large businesses, we need to make sure we have the housing market in our community for them to come and want to open a business. And we also have to have the workforce. And so again, working, like Rhonda had said, we have to work with Greater Huron Development, the chamber, and those other stakeholders to make sure that we have a community that is attractable and that we can bring in those businesses that want to come to our community. But it starts with housing, and then to make sure that we have the adequate workforce available in our community. And so we've done it, you know, previously in working with other business entities, whether it's maybe we can offer a TIF or some tax improvement financing for some of those businesses, but we just have to be willing and open to listen and figure out what their needs are, and then what is our role as a city commission that plays into that part. And so, you know, we're working to address the housing with what I had stated in my opening statement about the additional acres that we have purchased. We need to work on getting those developed sooner than later. So that will obviously give us an opportunity to look for some more attractive businesses to come to town.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, come forward.
I'm Diane Broker from Huron, and, give me a pause here. This is the first time I've done this. As you know, as most everybody knows, I'm an avid walker throughout Huron, and I enjoy my daily walks. And, I've talked to Drew about this a couple of times, so he's aware of my question probably. And I'm pleased to hear that public safety is both of your, on your top agenda list. I have issues with the dogs that are not leashed and dogs that are leashed throughout town. Last week, I was walking down to the park, and I had to jump on the roof of the car, on the hood of the car to get away from a dog. A couple of years ago, I was chased by a pit bull. And fortunately, I jumped into a trailer to protect myself. And a neighbor came by, he was out for his daily walk and saw me, and went back to get his car to take me home. This is a serious issue in town. There's not a day that goes by, and I walk most every day, that I do not see a dog that's not leashed, or a dog who is leashed who's lunging at me. What do you propose to do about this issue here in Huron? Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to start?
I will start. Diane, I appreciate your walking. I too love to walk, not as much as you do, and I see you out walking. I think that there must be an ordinance on pet ownership and having dogs leashed and keeping them in their yards. I would think that that would have to be enforced, and I am all in favor of keeping dogs and all pets in their owner's yard. Same with walking with the public safety. I mean, that delves off to a sidewalk issue and how we have unsafe sidewalks in many parts of our community when we're walking. But I think our Beetle County Humane Society, and they also operate the animal control, does a really good job. I've contacted them and they come immediately, but we have to go back to the issue at hand, and that is requiring our pet owners to take proper care of their pets and keeping them on a leash or keeping them in a yard. And I just think we turn to our city code enforcement officer and our law enforcement to make sure those laws are handled. Someone will be hurt terribly bad someday, and if we can avoid that happening, we need to. And that's the responsibility of the pet owner. You know, I think that they need to be aware, and it needs to be enforced. I don't know right offhand what the code is on that. Perhaps Commissioner Weinreis knows that, but I would be willing to find out, and I think it should be addressed.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So yes, there is an ordinance on place in regards to animals and being leashed, and it needs to be enforced. And so, but the thing though is, when there is a situation, we have to be aware of it, and we have to notify code enforcement that there is a dog running at large. They don't have the resources to be patrolling our community 24/7, so we rely upon our community to make those necessary calls to let us know that there is an animal running at large. You know, I've spoke with the police department. They do, if a law enforcement officer sees a dog running at large, they make all efforts to contact animal control and to make sure they alleviate that dog running at large. There are situations where a little dog gets out of the fence, you know, and we talked about this, and, you know, do I feel that every single situation deserves a fine? No. Yet there are some that do. You know, if little Chihuahua gets out for the first time, do I think we need to fine that homeowner or that pet owner? No. But a lot of it is education, and we need to educate pet owners about what the ordinances are, and working with our law enforcement and the Beetle County Humane Society, who we contract as our animal control. And we need to make sure that we are utilizing them, and we need to make sure that, you know, we pay them for a service and that they need to fulfill that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have another question from the audience? We're gonna go to the back of the room.
Rich Bright from here on. So far it's kind of a bummer. We're talking about cuts and killer dogs. So to give you guys a palate cleanser, let's go something more positive. What would both of you guys see if you're elected? Something really positive or fun that you'd like to see come to Huron, or an issue you've had, just so you can talk about something that's not such a bummer for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yes, we need more opportunities for our youth, especially in the winter. You know, we've got the great outdoor Splash Central that we get to utilize throughout the summer, but we do not have activities for our youth for indoors, especially during the winter. And so I would love if we could have some sort of indoor, you know, everybody loves to go to Sioux Falls to the trampoline park or other type of indoor facilities. And so they're leaving and they're going and spending their day in Sioux Falls, eating out, shopping, and utilizing their services. And so if we could have an opportunity to do something like that in our Park and Rec department, and I think that would be a great benefit for our community and a much-needed service.
Boy, I don't even know where to begin with that one, because every person in this room would have a different priority of what you think would be. If you could have one thing in here, and what would it be? I'm sure there are some people who would say retail. I'm sure there are people who would wish for more restaurants or more activities, more things to do. One thing about the things we have to do, there's a lot going on in Huron. I look at the chamber happenings every week. It's just like every day I can be out doing something. But if that were to happen, Commissioner Bragg, I think it would be so exciting to reach out to the community. We have X number of dollars that we can spend on something that you think Huron needs. And that was sort of what we did with the Huron Rising. We didn't talk about the fun things, really. We talked about the pressing issues. But I think that would be something we would want to hear from our community members. What someone might think would be a good opportunity would be a new roller rink, or get a roller rink in Huron again. Someone else might think it would be fun to have a trampoline park. Okay, oof, that makes me nervous. Of course, being married to an attorney, I'm going liability all the way across the board on that one. But I think it would be important to, and I'm not trying to minimize your question, Commissioner Bragg, but I would want to know what the citizens think are important. I think the role of city government is to listen to the people. And if it came back that we needed a larger senior center for the senior citizens in our community, that would be something we could look at. If we had, our Youth Leadership Council is very active in our community. That's the Student United Way group at the high school. And if you are on a community board, you perhaps have some of them serving with you. They have fantastic ideas. If I wanted to know what the youth needed in this community, I would head out to that group or the Key Club and get their feedback, because I don't think I know exactly what everyone needs, but I am sure willing to listen, and I hope we have that opportunity. I see that happening as another Huron Rising, sending out surveys, bringing people in for listening sessions, and they can tell us what they think would be the most important. So for me, it's all about listening to the community, and I hope we get to do that. I hope we get to put something really fun and exciting in.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, Tim Van Berkom from Huron. Just curious, what, if anything, could be done about blighted properties in this community? There's obviously rentals in this community that probably aren't safe to be inhabited, but are, so just interested in what you have to say about blighted properties.
Thank you.
Whose turn is it to go
I
first?
think it's your turn.
All righty. All right. That's an issue where I go like this. And that was one of the top issues, and it's been an ongoing issue with Huron Rising. I've learned a lot from the Huron Rising, from the code enforcement and the inspections office, and from the committees that Drew has worked on, and Commissioner Bragg and Commissioner Smith. A lot of groups have come together. City, Huron Rising, Huron Community Foundation, Huron Housing Rehab. What can we do about that? A lot of times, the homeowner doesn't have the resources to make their property meet the codes and meet the needs. And that's something we need to be aware of. I mentioned that I'm meeting with 2 people about some grants this next week on childcare. I'm also meeting with a group who has a wonderful grant opportunity, and our community falls in line perfectly with that grant to help senior citizens with their home repairs and to help low-income people make their home repairs. I've also invited the Huron Housing, our housing rehab specialist, to come to that meeting, because I think that's an opportunity that we can work together, again, bringing a lot of different groups together to work on that grant and to help the people meet those codes. Another thing I discovered throughout this process is there are a lot of codes out there, and I don't think our citizens know what those codes are. I think it's important to inform people. You know, you can only have X number of vehicles sitting in the boulevard and in your front yard. A lot of people don't know that, and a lot of people need to be informed, and I think it's a responsibility of the city government to first and foremost let people know they may be violating a code, because chances are they have no idea. And there are a lot of those codes on the book. We have a code enforcement officer in place. I also did some research and found another opportunity. There are communities in South Dakota who have hired a company that comes in, reads all the codes in your community, and then they take the time and drive around your community, and they work with the property owners who are in violation. That's an option that hasn't been researched, but I know it exists, and I know communities have had great success with that, and a couple have not.
Drew?
Thank you. So yes, as the Public Safety Commissioner, my role, code enforcement does fall underneath that. And so I have worked the last 2 years to get well educated on code enforcement, how that operates, and working with our officer, Mike Harrison, with that. I've gone on ride-alongs with him, looked at these properties. It's not just our housing, it's some of our businesses too. And we need to hold both of them to the same standard. And just to reiterate kind of what Rhonda had stated, you know, sometimes they don't have the financial means to fix it up. some of it's education. And so what we were looking at is coming alongside those property owners and how can we work with them to get this issue taken care of. And we need volunteers, we need help. Maybe there's church groups willing to come in, and if we could come alongside them and say, hey, we've got some resources available to help you, let us help you. Instead of coming there and sticking a pink note on their door. And, you know, a lot of people deal with a lot of things like we talked about, income-based. It might be mental health issues that they're dealing with. And so we have to be very conscious when we're dealing with those situations to make sure that, that we handle those appropriately. But it is an issue. You know, we're working with the Housing Authority. The city has funded for that rehab specialist position for the last numerous years. I would support doing that in the future. There's always more opportunities to get better. And I believe that we're on the right track. We just need, we need the momentum and we need the volunteers to help.
Thank you. Another question? Yes, sir.
I'm Tom Hanson from Huron, and we've talked a lot about spending, but of course, spending is funded by revenue. So what are the sources of revenue to fund city government, and what control do you have over any of those sources of revenue?
Thank you. I'll start this one. So yes, we are, first and foremost is our sales tax, you know. So the more we shop local, the more it helps our community out. So that's the biggest thing, is we need to continue to shop local so we can continue to raise our sales tax, which has kind of been at an even standstill this last year. The second one is property tax, you know, and so if we're, you know, getting certain restrictions from the state level on capping that, you know, that is one source of revenue as well as then our other enterprises, which is our solid waste facility, you know, our garbage and sewer rates, our water rates, things like that. You know, but those are certain amounts, and those go to those certain funds, you know, as well as, you know, some revenue from the golf course and those Splash Central. But I will say that the expenses outweigh the revenue in those type of entities. So we're really constrained to property tax and sales tax. And so those are the two things. We just got to continue to shop local, attract more businesses, and small businesses are the backbone of this community. And so that is one way that we would be able to continue to raise our funding is to support those local businesses.
Rhonda?
I agree that small business is a great source of revenue. Last year, the Huron Community Foundation sponsored the South Dakota CEO Small Business Women's Seminar that came to Huron, and we had about 80 participants come to those sessions, and we had resources available for anyone who was interested in opening a small business. There was legal counsel there, and they had interpreters that could speak to our Karen Hispanic population about opening a business. There were bankers in attendance, insurance agents, really helped people who are thinking of opening a small business. We are a smaller community. We are also a very ag-centric community, and we have some dynamic industries and ag-related businesses that are strongly supported. But back to the small business part, I know that there were 2 individuals who have opened downtown businesses as a result of the sessions that they were able to attend at that seminar. There will be a second one held on, I think it's April 24th. Of course, that'll be advertised with the chamber. But if we can encourage more people to open their businesses. One of the comments we heard on our child care committee from some of the Hispanic community is that there are women who want to get out into the workforce. They want to open catering businesses or have little tiendas, small restaurants, but they're lacking the child care. So everything that we identified in Huron Rising goes hand in hand with our retail, with creating revenue. We need to help those people open their businesses that they want to start and provide the things that they need to make that happen. And that will increase the revenue. I think we also need to look at trying to get some of our empty businesses sold, whatever we can do in the real estate area too, to help get some of our businesses, not only the ones on Main Street, but throughout town. We have a number of empty businesses that we need to find something to go into those. And that could line up with the housing too. Some of those could be turned into apartments or rental entities. I think there's some options, but property tax with the empty buildings would be something I would like to see increased.
Do we have another question? We will take one last question. Come on forward.
Bob Eichhoff, Huron. We moved to Huron in the late 70s. And almost immediately, we heard there's a group of business leaders, good old boys, that are blocking businesses from coming in. They don't want the competition. I was busy raising a family, I was busy working. It didn't mean much to me then. My question to each of you, first of all, Drew, is our commission still a bunch of good old boys? Are there things happening that we're not finding about? And Rhonda, God forbid, how will a woman fit in with the good old boys?
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. So since I got on the commission, I don't consider myself old yet, 36 years old. And that was the biggest thing we always heard was, it's just the same old, like you said, good old boys. I don't feel that is the case. We have a fair representation on this commission of all different generations, and I feel that we work together, and I feel, to my knowledge, I have never been aware of any situation where the commission has tried to block some sort of business from starting here, and I wouldn't support that either. We're open. This is an open commission. Our meetings are on YouTube, and you're welcome to come every Monday at 5:30 to this room and to hear what city government has to offer. But I don't believe that we have that situation happening in our community.
Rhonda?
Bob, I appreciate your question, and I look forward to working with the existing commissioners, all of whom are male. And I have been on a number of committees where I have been the only woman. I was the president of the Huron Crossroads Board a number of years ago, and I was the only woman. Way back then, that was before the Crossroads was sold, my idea for the restaurant was to have smaller desserts. Okay? I even had a name for it, the Buck-a-Bite dessert menu. And that was completely shot down because all of the men wanted big, huge desserts. Interestingly, now you can go somewhere and get just a small sample of a dessert. So I feel like I was ahead of my time. And I'm going to reach back to some of those gentlemen who were on that committee and say, see, we could have been leading the pack in Huron at the Crossroads with that dessert menu. But anyway, I look at the people I am on committees with and boards with, and I look at them as people. I don't see the gender, I don't see the race, I don't see different ethnicities. I see a group of interested people, passionate people coming together for the common good. And that's what we're all about. And it has been, I think it's been maybe 11, 12 years since a woman has been on the commission. And that was Jan Manolis, who I think she was on the commission for 24 years, which I don't intend to do that and follow in her footsteps. But it's an honor for me to be the next woman on the commission and follow in Jan's leadership role that she had for 24 years, not 24 years. But again, Bob, when we moved to Huron, I heard that same comment. That was what we heard. But I truly do not think that exists today. I think that businesses welcome other businesses. Our chamber works really hard to introduce new businesses. They do the ribbon cuttings. They have all kinds of special events to happen when a new business comes to town, open houses. I just don't think that's happening anymore. I agree with Commissioner Weinreich. I can't imagine a business wanting to keep another business out. Competition is good, and we need that. Hence the reason we're having a commissioner race this year, right?
Thank you. We have reached our allotted time. We're gonna move to closing statements from the candidates. Reverse the order. We're gonna start with Drew Weinreich.
Thank
Drew?
you. So again, thank you all for being here. As I conclude my remarks, I want to express my deepest gratitude for the trust that you've placed in me over the past 4 years. It has been an honor of my life to serve as your city commissioner. I'm inspired every day by the resilience and the dedication of our community. Looking forward, I envision a Huron that will continue to thrive, where every voice is heard and every resident feels valued. I'm committed to an inclusive environment where we can all work to address the challenges and face and seize the opportunities that lie ahead. Your support means everything to me, and I promise to remain dedicated to transparency, accountability, and collaboration. Together, we can create an innovative solutions that will enhance the quality of life in our community and for the next generation. Thank you for your time and support and your belief in the potential of our great city. And I would appreciate your vote for a second term as your city commissioner on Tuesday, April 8th at the Huron Arena. Thank you.
Thank you. Rhonda?
Well, I want to thank you all for coming out today, and I want to thank you for your questions. I don't profess to know the answer to everything, but one thing I have always done is seek the answer and seek it from the people who are in the know. I believe in fact-finding, and I assure you I will continue to do that. We live in a great community, and I know you all believe that or you wouldn't be here today. However, we can't just rest on our laurels. We can't sit idle, and we can't be content with the status quo. We must have the fortitude to move ahead and look for opportunities that will make our community stronger. And with that, we have a deep responsibility, it was brought up today, to live within our means, to be financially fiduciary, have our responsibility to the people who provide the funds to keep this city going. So, I've said it before, but we have to take care of what we already have. It's important that we keep our parks up. Splash Central is a beautiful, beautiful facility, but you know, that's aging and it's already needing repairs. That's expensive. We have to keep those things in mind. With your vote, I will strive in every way to continue to work hard with you, but most importantly for you. And I just have to end today with a quote that I recently heard from Amy Poehler. I don't know if you are familiar with Amy Poehler, Saturday Night Live and Park and Rec, great actress. But she says, as you navigate through the rest of your life, be open to collaboration. Other people and other people's ideas are oftentimes better than your own. Find a group of people who challenge and inspire you. Spend a lot of time with them, and it will change your life. I want to listen to your ideas. I want to hear what you have to say, and I am asking you to challenge me, to inspire me, and to vote for me on April 8th. Thanks for coming out today. It's so good to see so many of you here, and I appreciate your involvement and your concern with city government.
Thank you. Let's show our appreciation for the I also want to thank you for attending, and I especially want to thank the questioners because that always makes for an interesting panel. I have several announcements. First of all, and you've seen this, construction on Dakota Avenue will start March 31st. Finish the downtown area, work from 7th to 9th, and from Market to Highway 14. Second, Shop Hop. Spring Shop Local campaign begins April 1st in Huron and runs until the 19th at participating businesses. We would encourage you to participate. Third, put July 3rd on your calendar. That's when we will celebrate the reopening of the downtown Huron, and there will be more details to follow. And fourth, remember to vote on April 8th, or you can early vote starting Monday at City Hall before that. Lastly, I'm gonna take 2 minutes and talk about property taxes, because I've been a student of property taxes for decades. Couple things. First of all, some people forget that all your property taxes stay local. They fund your school, your county, your city, and here in Huron, we have a fourth one, and that's the James River Water District. But every dollar you pay in property tax stays within the county boundaries at the furthest. Second, I've been a little bit amused at some of the statements by state leaders and by people in the press about property taxes because of all the focus by the state legislature. The latest being that homeowners' property taxes have gone up 47% since 2017. That's not true of the state collectively. Now, your property taxes stay local, so you gotta look at local. So that caused me to look at mine. 2017 to 2025, my valuation has increased 37%. The value of my home, that's all I own, my home and my lot, gone up 37%. My property taxes have gone up 17% since 2017 over that collective period. How's that possible? Mill levies for the school, mill levies for the county, mill levies for the city are all lower today. A mill levy is what you pay in dollars per thousand of valuation of your property. All three entities have decreased mill levies $1, $2, $2.50 in the last 8 years. So some of the hype about what's happening in property taxes, I would just encourage you to look at your own, see what's happening with yours. With that, have a great day. Thanks for coming. We appreciate you being here.